Things are expensive at the moment, aren't they? The fuel price having just gone up, electricity price increases, everything seems to be going up except your salary. The rising cost of living is forcing many South Africans to look to unscrupulous lenders for loans just to try and get through the month. But now here's the problem. Some people are being fleeced of almost their entire paychecks and they can't quite understand why. Stellenbosch University's law clinic, listen to this, has found up to 75% of salaries are being paid over to debtors. It is not a good place to be. It's found that lenders are sidestepping the rules that restrict garnishee orders to 25%. So that's our big focus this morning, is garnishee orders. If something goes wrong, what's the legality about being able just to take it out your account as you get paid? Well, let's speak to the lead researcher. It's Dr. Stephan from Stellenbosch University this morning. Doc, good to have you with us. Appreciate the time. How is this even possible? If a garnishee order is 25%, that's what it's set at. How did we get to 75%? As you answer that, perhaps just for those who don't know, explain what a garnishee order is.
Sure thing. Good morning, Gareth, to you and your viewers. So a garnishee order is an emolument attachment order. So what it comes down to is when you, as an employee, get into a loan relationship and so you become someone's debtor, the creditor can then approach your employer in order to deduct from your monthly wages or salary an amount that would go towards the payment of your debt. And so an emolument attachment or a garnishee order is exactly that. It's an order against your employer for the payment of your debt to your creditor.
So I suppose the issue now is this is the irresponsible lending part, isn't it? Yes, consumers, Doc, have found themselves in a very difficult position. They've taken loans after loans after loans. Maybe they've taken a loan to pay off another loan. I think we all know the story by now. But surely there's a limit, a percentage limit that someone can be, I want to call it garnisheed. I feel like I didn't get that phrase right. Can be garnisheed on their salary. Is there a sort of scale involved?
Yes, so it's a very important point you're making. What one should keep in mind is that there is two routes to pursue a garnishee order, basically. So in South Africa, we have a formal route, which is the way one would use when you go through the courts. When you make a use of the courts, you go to the clerk of the court. There's a form of judicial oversight, so the magistrate would look into the matter, and he would then or she would then decide what amount should be deducted from your salary. And this amount, in terms of the law, would also always be the lesser of either 25% of your salary, or to make the deduction would be of such a nature that it would ensure that you still have sufficient means left for the maintenance of yourself and your dependents in that specific month. Now, that's when you use the route, as I say, through the courts, the formal routes. What has happened because of that regulation is that we found that unscrupulous lenders would now pivot and they would use a different avenue. And that avenue is that when a debtor incurs the loan, the creditor would have them sign a loan agreement, and part of that loan agreement would be a clause in terms of which the debtor would then give their employer the authority to deduct those amounts on the instructions of the creditor. So in other words, you're working outside the confines really of the formal legal system, and it's a matter then of the creditor would send that agreement to the debtor's employer and get into agreement with the debtor's employer as well to say that you must now deduct these amounts from the debtor's salary and pay them over to me. And the problem is, because this happens, as I say, outside the formal structures of the courts, is that we found in the research, as you alluded to earlier on, that amounts of up to 75% are then deducted based on the say-so of the creditor. And we've seen many salary slips where the debtors then at the end of the month have zero income.
Well, I want to talk about just some of the numbers, just as I want to get a sense of what's the employer's role in this. But we'll get there in a second, Doc. I just want to just give everyone watching an idea of this. There's an example, and I'm quoting here from your research, is an example, a payroll deduction. Listen to this, a payroll deduction of 11,178, just over 11,000 Rand, from a salary of 15,000. Here's my concern, Doc, and I imagine you would share the same, is that if you're being docked that much of your salary just for debt, You haven't paid anything yet. You're already in this position because you're lending money. When you don't have money left after being deducted all this debt, you're going to take another loan out to keep yourself going, and we're on the hamster wheel, aren't we?
Absolutely, you're 100% right, Gareth. And that, again, is unfortunately because these creditors specifically operate outside the confines of the law. They then extend reckless loans. And the research has found that what happens quite a lot of time is that you would have a creditor who would then extend a loan on the basis that the loan that they extend to the debtor is used to pay off previous loans by other creditors as well as that creditor themselves. And so they're just basically refinancing the loan and getting that debtor deeper into trouble where they eventually can't get out of that debt. And you see the problem with these payroll deductions that happens outside the confines of the formal legal structure is that it allows and it encourages creditors to extend these kind of reckless loans because they have the surety of the salary. They know that they're going to be able to deduct from the salary every month.
Yeah, it's not going to vanish off to other debit orders. In fact, they're probably going to be one of the first to be paid, but it's gone before it's even had a chance to be debit ordered. Doctor, very quickly, I'm sorry, as I say goodbye to you, someone watching now, how do we know what is an unscrupulous lender, A? And if you found yourself in this position, someone watching, what can they do about this? Last question to you.
Sure. So the first thing is you need to if you're going to be in a position where you have to incur a loan, you have to do your research and make sure that these are really creditors that are above the board. And I would encourage someone to really do proper research. Have a look at contact the National Credit Regulator. Have a look at websites. Go and do research about this lender and make sure that they are above board as far as you can determine. Then you need to make sure that at the time when the loan is extended, the loan agreement is explained in complete clarity and that an affordability assessment is done on a proper basis so that the loan that is extended to you is affordable. And then if you are in that position later on where you then find that you are being exploited through the system, my advice would be is you have to seek legal assistance. Go to your nearest university legal aid institution, to Legal Aid South Africa. Approach someone who can assist you, because we found in the research that often the employers would simply say, we're not able to assist you because we have an agreement with the creditors that we must make these deductions.
Yeah, it's so important, Doc, and appreciate the time, because a lot of people living way beyond their means already, but the problem is the panic sets in and they actually make it even worse for themselves to the point that your employer has to get involved with a garnishee order. Dr. Stephan.